Hi, this is the TOK essay breakdown series for November 2022. In these videos, I'll be unpacking the key terms and ideas in the title, as well as looking at the question from the perspective of two areas of knowledge. For a more detailed analysis, examples, and ideas on how to approach this title using different AOKs and other TOK concepts, please check out my November 2022 essay guides, link in the description. Right, so in this video we'll be looking at title number 2, which is if pushed too far, can open-mindedness itself become restrictive? Discuss with reference to two areas of knowledge. Let's start with our key terms. Now obviously open-mindedness is one of them. Here I have defined it as a willingness to entertain a range of different ideas or perspectives on something. Now, one of the key assumptions that this title makes is that open-mindedness can be pushed too far. So I have chosen to define this as implying that there is a point at which open-mindedness is no longer useful or somehow becomes counterproductive. Finally, the title specifically asks whether open-mindedness, when pushed to the extreme, could potentially become restrictive rather than freeing. Now, what exactly is being restricted? You will have to be more precise in your answer, but here, just to give a general definition, I have put limiting our capability to produce further knowledge. Some key points to bear in mind when answering this question. Firstly, it's important to remember that you are not simply being asked about the advantages or disadvantages of open-mindedness. We are specifically concerned with the issue of whether open-mindedness in excess could potentially restrict us in some way. Now, when planning your essay, thinking about ideas, it's a good idea to think about the possible circumstances in which open-mindedness could be pushed too far in the AOKs that you choose. Now, just to kind of reiterate a point I mentioned before, when you're talking about this notion of restriction or the restrictiveness caused by too much open-mindedness, be precise in what you're referring to. Are you talking about, for instance, the production of knowledge being restricted, or the application of knowledge being restricted, or something else? Finally, when thinking about your specific arguments, I do recommend thinking about various issues relating to intellectual freedom within your areas of knowledge, or artistic freedom if you are specifically focusing on the area of knowledge of art. For my first AOK, I have chosen the natural sciences. For the claim, I will be focusing on the knowledge framework of perspectives, specifically the acceptance of knowledge. Now, for the claim, I have contested that extreme open-mindedness is not restrictive. Free thinking may undermine confidence in accepted or evidence-based scientific knowledge and even lead to a greater acceptance of false claims, as can be seen during the pandemic. Various alternative treatments for COVID-19 have surfaced, one of the particularly famous ones being ivermectin. However, such extreme open-mindedness simply results in a lower standard regarding what scientific knowledge is accepted, as opposed to constituting any kind of restriction being placed upon it. For the counterclaim, however, we'll go the other way and say that actually open-mindedness can be restrictive. In pharmacology, for example, were researchers to take homeopathic remedies as seriously as evidence-based medicines, they could waste a substantial amount of time and funding, which may in turn drastically limit progress in pharmaceutical research and ultimately affect the country's healthcare system. For our mini conclusion, we can state that it is conceivable that open-mindedness could impede scientific research. For my second area of knowledge, I have chosen the arts. For the claim, focusing on the knowledge framework of ethics, I have put that open-mindedness can never be restrictive in the arts. We can admit that open-mindedness could have negative ethical consequences. So we could argue, for example, that viewing morally problematic works with an attitude of openness and acceptance could, if taken very, very far, lead to the normalization or even encouragement of the destructive ideas or behaviors presented by the piece. However, this is more a case of excessive freedom rather than being restrictive. To contrast this idea with our counterclaim, we might say that actually too great a degree of open-mindedness can restrict us in another way, specifically our ability to judge art and to identify the degree of artistic merit a piece possesses. There are various works featured in prestigious exhibitions around the world which may run completely contrary to our intuitions regarding what art is, a notable example being the French-American painter and sculptor Marcel Duchamp's 1917 work, The Fountain. A willingness to classify anything not only as art, but good art, could deeply complicate the evaluation of artwork, which itself is already a highly subjective affair. So, in our mini conclusion, we can say that open-mindedness pushed to the extreme may actually impede our ability to evaluate art in any kind of meaningful way. For essay guides and personal feedback, feel free to check out my website tokessayhelp.com. If you would like me to cover another title, feel free to leave a comment below. Many thanks for watching.